What double standard in society goes generally unnoticed or without being called out? If you manage your disability well, despite the difficulties it presents, you're then not considered disabled enough to qualify for any of the social care support you most likely need to continue to manage your disability and live well. My mom has cancer. She's on disability because most days she's too sick to work. There are days where she feels great though, and wants to do things on those days. Her neighbor helps run the local food pantry and said that she would love her help on the days when she feels okay to work. My mom is afraid because people keep telling her horror stories of people losing disability because they volunteered a couple of days a week. There's no way she can work 9 to 5, but she also doesn't want to just sit at home all day every day either. Canceling appointments. If I cancel an appointment, I get charged $50, like a doctor or therapist. If I'm walking out the door and they call and cancel, no consequences. People are encouraged to reach out and ask for help when they are struggling with mental health, but still stigmatized if they have mental illness. I saw a post on a Facebook group I'm in recently. It was a selfie of a mother with her little boy in the back seat eating a pudding cup with no spoon, and she had captioned it, "Making sure he's making his future girlfriends happy," or something along those lines. I was disgusted by it. My boyfriend laughed. He tried to tell me I was being stuck up and a prude about it. I asked him if I was a father posting a picture of his daughter eating a popsicle and captioned it similar about making future boyfriends happy. Would you feel the same way? He looked like I slapped him in his face, but he instantly got what I was saying. Sexualizing children in any capacity is gross AF, and it even happens to little boys. People just need to do better and let kids simply be kids without putting sexual undertones to it. So weird. Attractive and popular people can get away with some foul stuff compared to the average person. I gotta give you 2 weeks notice before I quit, but you can fire me at any point? Nah, fam. People with blinding headlights can shine them at your face because the car came that way. But you can't flash your high beams back at them to let them know that you can't see without being an asshole. We feel so compassionate toward disabled people, but our policies require them to live life in deep poverty with poor medical care while we run around saying how every life is precious. Sure, this is really sad. It's frustrating how people with disabilities can be penalized for managing their condition well and trying to live a fulfilling life. It's like they're not allowed to have any good days without fear of losing the support they need. And the same goes for people with cancer who want to be able to contribute to their community without risking their disability benefits. It's a double standard that goes unnoticed by many. Do you know anyone who has experienced this kind of discrimination or unfair treatment because of a double standard in society? Let me know in the comments down below, and let's move right into our next Reddit post. What's something that's illegal but is the right thing to do? A few years ago in Australia, a father caught his young son being raped by the next-door neighbor. The father naturally beat the heck out of his son's rapist, and he ended up getting a longer sentence for assault than the neighbor did for child rape. I don't think I've met a single person that doesn't think the father did the right thing, yet somehow he was still convicted. There is a case from Texas about a decade ago where a father caught a man attacking his daughter. He killed him out in the open. The cops investigated and the DA did not charge him for the murder of the man. When I worked in a bakery, I'd bag up all the pastries at the end of the day, as instructed, but then just threw them in my trunk to drop off at the homeless encampment instead of tossing in the dumpster. So stupid to waste food. My mom worked in a hospital kitchen, and they caught her on camera taking a loaf of bread that had expired outside. They charged her with theft and took her to court, financially ruined her. She worked there for 16 years. All for the judge to ask them to settle out of court and dismiss the case. The food industry should never punish anyone for taking expired food, ever. If someone's parking meter time has expired, you are not allowed to add some coins so they don't get a ticket. My dad does this and walks ahead of the meter maid to do it, chuckling along the way. I'm not sure if it's actually illegal, but you can't set up a food distribution and start feeding the homeless. There were a bunch of homeless people in a park near here. Some people came and set up a makeshift buffet and were handing out food. The police came and made them shut it down and discarded all the food because they weren't licensed to distribute food. Putting an animal down that you've hit on the road and it's suffering. This is a common thing to happen in northern Canada. Many people have hunting rifles in their vehicles. However, if you hit an animal by accident, you must wait for conservation to arrive and put the animal down. Most areas are rural, and that can take hours for them to arrive. I have a friend who hit a deer with his truck late at night and broke its spine. It was crying in pain, so he humanely put it down. He was fined thousands of dollars. Edit. Lots of folks are asking why he didn't just drag the deer into the woods and drive away. The deer ended up partially going through the windshield of his truck and being wedged in, causing a lot of damage, so he wasn't able to drive away. Deer are heavy, folks. Dragging one out that's stuck inside the cab of your truck wouldn't be easy. This happened over 10 years ago. So from what I remember, he called the police because his vehicle would have been left there, and they would have tracked it to his name and found him. He was trying to do the right thing, but ended up paying the price. He was fined for what I'm understanding was discharging a weapon on a public road and poaching because he didn't have an active hunter's number. Either way, it was unfair, and that law should change. So, I was Uber driving the other day, and a young mother and her 3-month-old ordered a ride to be picked up at a children's hospital in the freezing cold. I get there, no car seat. Oh well, I guess I'm just going to take that chance and get them home. Pirating films or games that are no longer available for sale anywhere. Wow, these stories really got me fired up. It's insane how people can get punished for doing the right thing. Like that father in Australia who beat up his son's rapist only to get a longer sentence than the actual rapist. That's messed up. And then there's the guy who put an animal out of its suffering and got fined for it. I mean, what was he supposed to do? Just leave the poor thing there? It's so unfair. These stories just make me so angry. It really makes you wonder what the justice system is even for, you know? So, have you ever been in a situation where you felt like you had to do something that was technically illegal, but was the right thing to do? And if so, how did it turn out for you? Let me know in the comments down below, and let's move right into our next Reddit post. What happened to the smartest kid in your class? The smartest kid in my class was also very disciplined and emotionally stable. I lost track of him in the last 20 years, but a quick Google search says he graduated from Stanford and started a biotech company. There were 2 geniuses in my class. One became a neurosurgeon, the other opened a candle store. For an illegal operation. The candle store is a font for an illegal operation. I'll break the mold here from the burnt-out gifted kid stereotype. He got a PhD from a very prestigious university, worked for Google on one of their flagship products, married a medical doctor, quit Google, and semi-retired. He's mostly a stay-at-home dad now and does some occasional consulting work part-time. What I'm not jealous. You're jealous. Seriously though, the guy deserved every bit of what he has. As an only child who was homeschooled, he's spending too much time on Reddit rather than being a productive member of society. He met smarter kids and got depressed. She's winning awards for her work mapping the human genome. No surprise. I never would have guessed that the comment representing 10% of my useless internet points gathered in 2 years would be this one. He became the Surgeon General of the US. The same thing happened to the 2 smartest kids in my class, a guy and a girl. They both got accepted into Ivy League schools and then had to drop out after they developed serious mental health issues. I imagine the high-stress environment must have flipped a switch in their brains to make them go off the deep end. They were such cool people. I was really rooting for them. This is really interesting. It's amazing to see where the smartest kids in your class end up, and there's such a range of outcomes. From starting a biotech company to becoming a stay-at-home parent to even facing mental health issues, it's incredible to see how different people's paths can be. It's also kind of sad to hear about the two kids who had to drop out of Ivy League schools due to mental health issues. It really highlights the immense pressure and stress that comes with high academic achievement. So what's the most surprising or unexpected outcome of someone from your class? Did they end up doing something completely different than what you would have ever guessed? Let me know in the comments down below, and let's move right into our next Reddit post. People who know someone who won the lottery, how did they change? He bought a house, got sober, and invested a bunch of time into hobbies. He went from being a good guy to a great guy. Super proud of him. This is the kind of story I didn't expect, lol, especially the getting sober part. Big props to him. A guy I went to high school with won the lottery in his early 30s. He bought the low-income housing block he grew up in, and his mother still lived in, completely renovated it, and kept it low-income housing. I don't know what else he did with the money, but he changed a lot of families' lives for the better with that one purchase. She divorced her husband, a baggage handler for American Airlines, if I recall, and married a rich, flashy Cuban guy. But she did split the prize with her first husband. I don't know. That sounds like a pretty good deal to me. I worked with a lady who was 2 cubicles down from me. She would buy the lottery religiously, and one Friday our boss said to her, "I bet you win the $55 million and come in on Monday and quit." Well, she sure did. She was the first solo winner in my city, and she quit Monday morning. She and her husband didn't change much. They just remodeled their home and continue to live simple lives. Both are retired. She was 42 when she won. This was about 10 years ago now. The girl was jumping from one crappy job to another. She did win not a massive amount, but enough to be able to study 2 to 3 years without having to work. She was able to land a good job and a nice paycheck thanks to her studies, so basically changed her life for the better. My friend's aunt and uncle won cash for life. Less than a year after winning, their house was hit by a tornado. They rebuilt, much larger than the original build. They didn't change, but their home did. My former boss won it. Divorced his wife, married some plastic-filled new lady, ended up divorcing her too and owing on cocaine somewhere in the Caribbean. Won $2 million and paid off their debt, plus made a few large purchases. Friends, relatives, churches, and charities found out and asked for loans and handouts. Eventually, the money ran out, and they ended up stealing a bit from an organization they were the treasurer of because they wanted to chase that high again. I can't remember if they did jail time or just did community service, but they had to sell some things and ended up only slightly better off than they were before winning the lottery. This is such an interesting mix of stories about how people's lives changed after winning the lottery. From getting sober and investing in hobbies to buying low-income housing and even marrying rich, there are so many outcomes. One person even quit their job after winning. It's crazy to see how money can completely change someone's life, for better or for worse. I can't imagine how winning that much money would affect me, but it's definitely something to think about. Have you ever known someone who won the lottery? If so, how did it change their life? Or if you won the lottery, what do you think you'd do with the money? It's such a fascinating topic, and I'd love to hear your thoughts on it. Well, that's another episode of Ask Reddit in the books. I really appreciate all of you who made it this far into the video. Of course, if you enjoyed this video, it would really help the channel out a lot if you gave the video a thumbs up, subscribe, or leave a comment down below. I hope that you enjoyed it, and I'll see you next time.